Action has been taken. New tonight on Our News Live at 7, the immigration minister reveals more about the officers identified in a now viral video of a barbershop bust-up. A Defense Force Marine accused of a sex crime is granted bail. Plus, a cabinet minister comes to the defense of a colleague in response to the Royal Caribbean International Beach Club plans. And then in Our News at 7:30, you may have seen some wacky socks today. How it's sparking a conversation for World Down Syndrome Day. Our News Live at 7 starts now. Welcome to Our News Live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Kendino Knowles. More than a month after two men of Haitian descent were assaulted in a barbershop, law enforcement officers are making progress in the case. Berthany McDermott, who is following this, gets us started tonight.
I can confirm that they were immigration officers.
More than a month after law enforcement officers launched an investigation into this viral video, Immigration Minister Keith Bell confirming to reporters the men entering the barbershop are immigration officers. He says action has been taken.
There is a process. The investigation is being done. The officers concerned who have been identified have been placed on administrative leave.
The officers entered Adams Barbershop on Bacardi Road on February 11th and assaulted two barbers. They say they were taken to the detention center and released later that day. Both men feel they were targeted. Bell was asked if there is any concern about corruption within the department.
There's always this thing called corruption throughout the country, and it's being thrown here and there. The reality is, what is it that we are doing? We are reviewing the current practices of immigration, the policies, and ensuring that we put in place a proper and a thorough investigative system and expand the capacity of immigration to deal with these issues and concerns that are currently out there in the media.
The incident leaving many in the Haitian community shaken and on edge. When asked how long this investigation could take,
the investigation will take as long as is necessary to ensure that the matter is thoroughly investigated. That's the first thing. The second point is that, and again, given where the investigation is between the police and immigration, I would not want to comment on that. But we do live in a country where there are laws. We do live in a country where there is a constitution and a person is presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
All right, thanks a lot, Berthany. Well, a 27-year-old Royal Bahamas Defense Force Marine accused of sexually abusing a minor was today granted bail. Justice Janine Weish Gomez set bail at $9,900 for Van Miller, who's charged with 5 counts of unlawful sexual intercourse. Miller was remanded to prison last Monday following his initial appearance in court. He's accused of beginning a sexual relationship with a 12-year-old girl in September 2021 that continued until March 9th this year. That's when the case came to the attention of authorities. The girl involved is now 13. However, she could not consent to sex with Miller since she is under 16. And a ride home for a woman reportedly turns to sexual assault and has police on the hunt tonight for the suspect. Investigators telling Our News the victim was walking on Bacardi Road around 9 a.m. on Monday when she accepted a ride from a man driving a burgundy car with a license plate number AH9084. The suspect, who she told police she didn't know, drove the victim to a home in Coral Harbor and went inside. Police say when he came back, he was armed with a handgun and sexually assaulted the woman. The victim managed to escape and reported the matter to police. That license plate number again, AH9084. If you have any information that can help investigators, you are asked to contact Crime Stoppers at 328-TIPS. Meanwhile, a stash of marijuana and a huge cannabis plant was found on Abaco and seized by police. They tell us it was shortly after 5 p.m. on Monday when a tip led officers from Marsh Harbor Police Station to a bushy area on Christie Street off Forest Drive. That's where the officers say they found marijuana along with a 14-foot plant. No arrests have been made and investigations are ongoing. Now to the recently announced RCI project on Paradise Island. As Education Minister, Glenys Hanna Martin, who came out against the project, causing quite a stir, with opposition leader Michael Pintard going as far as to call for her resignation. Her cabinet colleague, Youth, Sports and Culture Minister Mario Boleg, now weighing in.
Well, there's no final decision ever was made on that deal, so I don't know why it's even up for discussion right now. It's, again, a deal that is in the making, and when the final decision is made on that, those who are responsible for that will make the notation on what it will be. And as a member of the cabinet, you know, we all support each other, and Glennis Anna Martin is one who also supports us in everything we do and say.
Oleg says above all else, it's important that people are able to have their own opinions and that at the end of the day, the cabinet is supportive.
The Prime Minister already spoke on his position in this, and Glennis Anna Martin, as each and every one of us as Bahamian citizens, has the rights on our own opinion, but at the end of the day, she said what she said, and the cabinet supports her on her own personal views. But again, the decision, like I say, has not been made on this matter, finalized, and when that happens, the minister responsible, which is the Deputy Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister will make mention of what decision will be. And whatever decision will be, I assure you the Cabinet will support it.
All right, we've got much more to get to in a moment, including the latest on Causeway repairs progressing over in West Grand Bahama. And speaking of, it's time now for your first look at temperatures across the islands. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center. Greg, I know there was a lot of rain yesterday. There was a front causing that. A much clearer day today. Yeah.
We had quite a bit of rain. In my yard, we had almost 3 inches of rain. No, that was
last night,
during that rainy period. Yeah. And I measured about a little over 1.25 inches this morning. So, but we're done with that. That front is all the way down, so we show that in the satellite picture. But beautiful
so folks
evening.
can go and get their cars clean, right?
Yeah. Beautiful evening setting up for us in the outdoors. 75 degrees and mostly clear skies. The winds are out of the east-northeast at 14 miles per hour. It's a little breezy out there, but it's very comfortable. Feels like 75 degrees also on the outdoors. Temperatures around the islands right now, it's 74 in Freeport, also in Marsh Harbor, Abaco, 72 over in Alistown, Bimini. We pick up another 74 in Great Harbor Key. Nicholas San Andreas, 75 in Governor's Bay, Governor's Harbor, that is. Into the Central Bahamas, Kemps Bay, 76 also in Arthurstown, Cat Island, 75 in Coburn Towns in Salvador, a pair of 77s in Georgetown, Exuma, and in Deadman's Key, and into the Southeast Bahamas, 78 in Duncantown, Ragged Island, and Delectable Bay, 77 in Kern Hill, Cricket Island, Abrahams Bay, 79. Matthewtown, Inagua, you guys tied the temperature with Providenciales. You both are 80 degrees at this hour. Satellite view, that frontal boundary that dumped quite a bit of rainfall across the northwest Bahamas, continuing to drag itself slowly towards the south. Really just parked across the Long Island and the Aucklands and Crooked Island area, not really getting into South Bahamas, Southeast Bahamas, but high pressure is building in behind that. That is going to continue to provide us with some very dry air mass and some breezy conditions. So beaching and boating will become a challenge over the next couple of days, and we expect that front to get out of here by the weekend. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us. Look at your extended forecast. It's still to come.
Thanks, Greg. And still to come on our news, Works officials reveal details about the possible completion date of the Fishing Hole Road Causeway, plus how school safety is taking top priority for school inspectors. And later, new details about a fungal infection spreading in the United States. It's all coming up when Our News continues.
This segment of the news is brought to you by H.G. Christie. List your home in Grand Bahama with H.G. Christie. Visit our new office in the Port Lakaya Marketplace. H.G. Christie, celebrating over 100 years of service.
Construction at Fishing Hole Road Causeway is progressing as work crews are now making repairs, and tonight the Deputy Director of Works sharing next steps with our Talia Hall.
So they've started straight away, I believe, on doing the works to the causeway, to the bridge. That's not quite as straightforward because we have to prepare the surface because it was a concrete surface.
That's Deputy Director in the Ministry of Works, Robert Moses. He says he is pleased that the service road is now complete. And as for the causeway,
we have to make sure that the asphalt will bond to the concrete, and we have to repair the joints as well.
He revealed that the joints on the causeway have deteriorated.
It's a normal process that the bridge it's normal routine maintenance on the joints. So we're just doing that maintenance. It's only a minor thing that takes a couple of days, but we are doing that as well.
When it comes to a completion date, here's what the Deputy Director had to say.
I don't have a definitive date when they will be finished, but they are progressing well.
And to drivers, he's once again asking you to drive with caution as construction continues.
But in the future, we would like people to really adhere to the speed limit of the bridge when we reopen. We will be putting a signage up and markings on and some rumble strips to sort of slow people down, because we don't want people speeding in that zone, because it is on a curve to the bridge from the straight. It is a long straight and then the curve and then the very long straight. So it does encourage people to speed when they shouldn't really be speeding.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Natalia Hall.
All right, thanks, Natalia. Well, the National Accreditation and Equivalency Council is inspecting schools across the country, and according to Council Chairperson Thelma Grimes, the work continues.
We, God's willing, going to cover every island, every key in this country to make certain that the facilities that we send our children to are adequate for education, and conducive to learning. And as a result, some people got afraid when the inspectors came around, thinking that we're checking about teachers and so on and so on. Eventually, some of that may get into play. But right now, we want to make certain that where you have your kids, that they're safe and sound.
Education Minister Glenys Hannah Martin commending the institution that is also responsible for registration and accreditation of educational institutions for the work and their focused agenda.
We're accountable to NACOB. They ensure that what is happening on these campuses throughout the nation, that it meets the physical standards and the qualitative standards of education. You would have heard classroom size, teacher to student ratio. We may have challenges, and we do in the ministry, but when these issues are brought to our attention, we are obliged and compelled to seek resolution to ensure that the standards are met. So this is a quality assurance measure for the ministry itself and our schools to ensure that public schools and private schools meet these standards of physical and qualitative.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as nearly 200 people are dead in an outbreak of gang violence in Haiti. Plus, did you rock your socks for World Down Syndrome Day today? How Bahamians are helping to raise awareness. And later, $240,000 in funding for graduate students. We'll tell you how you can apply after this break. This is our news. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. The Kremlin praising a thorough exchange of views during the first day of talks between Russian President Vladimir Putin and China's Xi Jinping. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov revealing the two had discussed Beijing's peace plan for Ukraine. Peskov said the 12-point paper calls for a de-escalation and eventual ceasefire in Ukraine, but declined to give further details. The United States has been dismissive of it, given China's refusal to condemn Russia's invasion. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says any possible protests in support of former President Donald Trump should be peaceful. This after Trump took to social media to urge his followers to protest what he said was his looming arrest. Political reporting a grand jury was expected to indict Trump late on Monday or on Wednesday for arranging payments to porn star Stormy Daniels. Trump, who is seeking the Republican nomination for the White House in 2024, had predicted he would be arrested on Tuesday.
We are always prepared. I can say that from here. I'm just not going to get into hypotheticals or any potential scenarios, but we are always prepared.
The Centers for Disease Control, CDC, says a deadly fungal infection that is hard to treat is spreading rapidly at an alarming rate. U.S. cases of Candida auris nearly doubled in 2021 from 756 to 1,471. Healthy people are not at risk, but those with weak immune systems or using medical devices like ventilators or catheters can suffer severe illness or die. The CDC has called it an urgent antimicrobial resistance threat and says many patients are in hospitals and elderly care homes. The United Nations office in Haiti says new clashes between gangs in Haiti's capital and beyond have killed at least 187 people in less than 2 weeks and injured more than 150 others. Officials say the fresh wave of violence recorded from February 27th to March 9th in Port-au-Prince and in the central region has also displaced hundreds of people and forced farmers to abandon fields as starvation worsens. This as desperate Haitian families fled the suburb of Pétionville in Haiti's capital on Monday after several violent incidents in the early hours of the morning.
Historically, the gang problem in Haiti is related to the political class. Many of these young people in slums are sometimes, armed by politicians, hungry politicians who are seeking power. Increasingly, these gangs become more and more powerful and spew out of control. Every time you have elections, the gangs are being used and instrumentalized by politicians. However, the current crisis that we are facing today in Haiti is unprecedented. You don't have many institutions that are up and running effectively. So democracy is effectively dead.
And finally, from the region, St. Martin Prime Minister Sylveria Jacobs says she was shocked and concerned about the arrest of United People's Party UP leader and Member of Parliament Rolando Bryson as part of a corruption and bribery probe. The St. Martin Prosecutor's Office said Bryson, who is suspected of taking bribes and abusing his position, remains a suspect in the ongoing criminal investigation. In a statement Monday, Jacobs said her government coalition, which includes the UP, remains focused on the island's affairs, including next week's budget. All right, well, today is World Down Syndrome Day, and people all over have been wearing their mismatched socks in support of those living with the condition. It is the most common genetic condition in the world, but it doesn't stop those who have it from living a normal life. President of the Grand Bahama Down Syndrome Society, Wendy Hanna, explains why.
Most people with Down syndrome have developmental delays, so they're delayed in speech, they're delayed in their physical mobility, and they tend to have an intellectual disability component to their lives as well. So they often need more stimulation, more engagement, more involvement to make sure that they meet their milestones as they grow up. But what we like to encourage people to know is that people with Down syndrome, once they are able to achieve their milestones, are just like everybody else.
All right, and as for the significance of rocking your socks on World Down Syndrome Day, Hannah says every year on March 21st, the hope is that Awareness campaigns can help to eliminate the stigma attached to people with special needs.
They enjoy to do the things that everybody else likes to do. They're social, they, like to learn, they like to be involved with people, they like to participate. And we just want to encourage the community to support them in those initiatives. Include them, appreciate them, value them, treat them as you would anybody else. And that's really what we try to promote with World Down Syndrome and every day of the year, just acceptance and inclusion of all people with Down syndrome.
All right, what a wonderful effort, and we'll have much more on World Down Syndrome Day coming up in Our News at 7:30. Still to come in Our News, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was March 21st and the first of an 11-night curfew at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. And a little later, Greg is back with your extended weather forecast. Then in Our News at 7:30, the immigration minister explains the state of statelessness in the country. It's all coming up when Our News returns. Welcome back to Our News. This week's opinion piece, As I See It, taking a stinging jab at perverted men who take advantage of children. Referencing recent Our News reports about men charged before the courts for such acts, columnist Tanya Smith Cartwright, she writes about how those we blindly trust betray us, or how could they? And she says we should always remember the saying, what is done in the dark will always come to the light. She tells readers that many in this country have no idea what some women and children go through on a daily basis. It's a thought-provoking piece, and it's available now right at ournews.bs. Just hit the opinion tab, and remember, As I See It, it publishes every Monday at ournews.bs. And with that, we turn our attention now to our historical recap of the day that was March 21st. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history, in 1946, Kayla Lockhart Edwards was born in Duncantown, Ragged Island. She was a singer, songwriter, actor, and producer. For more than 30 years, Edwards produced numerous folklore shows and dramas to promote authentic Bahamian culture. Some of her theatrical plays and folklore presentations include Roots, Rhyme and Rhythm, and the ZNS broadcast show Mirror Mirror. She passed away on her 60th birthday in 2006. Then in 2011, the House of Assembly voted on a resolution for the sale of 51% of Bahamas Telecommunications Company, BTC, to British-based Cable and Wireless. The Historical Society notes the vote was mainly split down party lines, with 22 members voting in support and 18 against. Then in 2013, around 10 a.m., EMS personnel rushed to Stewart's Cove after an air tank explosion at the Dive Tours Company injured 3, including a customer and 2 employees. May 16, Michael Pintard, who was then an opposition senator and chairman of the F&M, resigned amid an ongoing investigation involving billionaire neighbors Peter Nygaard and Louis Bacon and an alleged murder plot by members of environmental group Save the Bays. Pintard was attached to a trail of emails that were a part of that investigation. And on March 21st, 2020, Saul Kersner died. He was 84. He was the founder, chairman, and CEO of Kersner International, which for many years was the principal owner of the iconic Atlantis Resort on Paradise Island. Then Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis hailed him as a maverick businessman and pioneer in the resort industry globally, who helped to redevelop and transform tourism in the Bahamas. Also in 2020, Our News reported on the first night of the 11-day curfew under COVID-19 emergency orders imposed by the Minnis-led administration. And finally, a year later in 2021, Grand Bahama saw the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine. Over $200,000 in scholarships is up for grabs by promising graduate students. It's part of a recently relaunched initiative by 2 local foundations, and it offers the awards to up to 3 students. If that interests you, here now is our Joshua Williams to tell you more.
A scholarship that has contributed over $1 million in the past decade to students pursuing higher education has now been relaunched. The Lyford Key Foundation is partnering with the Templeton World Charity Foundation to provide $240,000 in funding to graduate students. The scholarship, named after the late Sir John Templeton, represents a commitment to helping people achieve their dreams through education. Chairman of the Lyford Key Foundation's Basil Galandris.
In keeping with the ideals of Sir John, we promoted, and considering the needs of Bahamian society, the eligibility criteria has widened to include applicants who are exploring themes around human development and human potential, and who are eager to improve the quality of life of mankind through their research.
The scholarship will fund up to 3 students $40,000 each for up to 2 years. Templeton World Charity President Dr. Andrew Serizin on the partnership with Lyford Key Foundations.
The Lyford Key Foundation has demonstrated a commitment to supporting the best and brightest minds in the Bahamas, and we know that they will continue to ensure that Sir John Templeton scholars espouse the highest academic standards, leadership qualities, and a humble spirit.
Executive Director for Lyford Key Foundations, Dr. Nicola Virgil Roll, says one of the key deterrents to higher learning for Bahamians is the lack of funding, so initiatives like these always help.
Our scholarships programs enable students throughout the Bahamas to have better access to scholarships, so where there may be barriers in terms of financial challenges, scholarships certainly help to alleviate that, and so we're very grateful for this scholarship, which is one of the largest annual amounts in terms of individual to students, $40,000 of scholarship funds per student per year that we are administering.
To be eligible, applicants must be accepted into an accredited graduate program and must be Bahamian with a strong academic background. Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
All right, thanks a lot, Joshua. To learn more about how you can access those scholarships and for all of today's top stories, you can visit ournews.bs. That's going to do it for us in News at 7. Joining us now is Italia Hall with the latest headlines. Italia, it's good to see you.
And it's good to see you too. Happy Tuesday, and it's great to have you back. How does it feel?
It feels good. Feels good. Back to work.
Yes,
right?
glad to have you back in. Thanks so much. Right. Well, we are just getting started in Our News at 7:30 as we've got the latest U.S. Department of State report on statelessness in the Bahamas coming up, as well as a really cool way one organization is raising awareness about Down syndrome. New tonight on Our News Live at 7:30, what the immigration minister has to say about statelessness in the Bahamas.
We're not going to be rushed by virtue of someone remaining in this country for a significant period of time.
Parliamentary debate on a bill delayed. Why the opposition is saying the lack of consultation is cause for concern. And everything is on track for the Carifta Games this Easter holiday weekend. The sports minister brings us up to speed on preparations. Plus, mismatched socks sending a message. We'll tell you what it means. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment.
Welcome to our news and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. Immigration Minister Keith Bell is defending government over criticisms in the U.S. Department of State's 2022 Human Rights Report on the country's handling of statelessness. Marlena Leonard gets us started.
The government made little progress in advancing legislation to address statelessness, according to the U.S. Department of State's 2022 Human Rights Report on the Bahamas.
I'm satisfied that our laws are strong and we are following them to the extent to which we will take our time to ensure that whomever comes to this country may be granted citizenship. That is the responsibility and the authority of the government, and we will ensure that we do our due diligence. We're not going to be rushed by virtue of someone remaining in this country for a significant period of time.
Wait periods associated with citizenship applications were also criticized in the report, but Immigration Minister Keith Bell says there's good reason for the length of the process.
We receive applications from a significant number of persons of different nationalities, and we have to check with these states, these countries, to ensure that documents that we receive are authentic. They have to be authenticated. We have to ensure that where there is no duplication or imposters, as we have seen in the past.
Another hot topic of late referenced in the report, eviction notices and informal settlements. Bell says there is a plan in place post-demolitions.
The responsibility of the government is to Bahamians. So where we find that there are Bahamians residing in the shanty towns, we will make provisions through the Department of Social Services, the ministry, to ensure that we provide or at least give them the opportunity to find adequate housing. For persons residing in these shanty towns who are on work permits, the responsibility is for their Bahamian employers to ensure that they have adequate living accommodations. And thirdly, the category of irregular immigrants, they ought not to be here. They will be arrested and deported.
As for those currently unhappy with the way laws surrounding citizenship and nationality work, Bell says these laws are back under the microscope and seeking improvement.
The laws are currently under review, the Nationality Act, and in due course there will be widespread consultation with the Bahamian people to ensure that who we wish to make citizens in this country, there is consensus among our population.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
All right, thanks, Marlena. Well, parliamentarians were expected to debate the Tourism Development Corporation Bill 2023 in the House of Assembly yesterday. Leader of the opposition business, Obi Wilchcombe, however, moved for an adjournment following a short presentation by State Minister for the Public Service, Pia Glover-Roll. Before heading into the weekly cabinet meeting today, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism Chester Cooper explained why debate on that bill was put off and explained what will happen next.
When we are requested to have further conversations by anyone impacted by a piece of legislation, we have those conversations. This letter comes from a young man who has represented that he is the president of the Bahamas Vacation Rentals Association. I can confirm that he did have a meeting with the TDC. He indicated to us that he wanted to make some further contributions and that he didn't have the time to do so. He asked for more time, and therefore we granted that time.
And when asked at which point they feel they will be ready to resume debate on the bill again, Cooper said this.
We are going to speak with everyone who has a contribution, and we will only take it back to Parliament after we have broadly spoken with this gentleman and anybody else who has contributions to make.
While some parliamentarians who prepared to debate the Tourism Development Corporation bill in Parliament Monday were caught off guard when they learned the debate was postponed. The bill was pulled at the last second due to a lack of consultation. Opposition members were informed moments before Parliament began, and according to Opposition Leader Michael Pintard, the lack of consultation is a cause for concern.
One of the matters we intended to raise in this debate was the lack of consultation, because already we were aware that several groups were concerned, and this is a pattern of behavior by this administration, failure to consult on important pieces of legislation.
Now, the bill intends to place the Tourism Development Corporation on legal, statutory funding and facilitate the creation of a tourism development fund. Leader of Opposition Business in Parliament, Adrian White, explains what happened.
As I walked into the House about 10 minutes before 10 a.m., the government leader of business came across and advised that we would be standing down on debate The date that we will come back to actually contribute to the discussion is not yet set. I think we agree with the government on this right now, that if there are stakeholders that have not been consulted, then they should be. And hopefully we'll get this back before the House very soon and get it right.
A member of the court staff faced criminal charges today after being accused of forging fine receipts. Cruzel Nottage, a jury assistant, is accused of forging a receipt to show that a $9,000 fine had been paid on March 9th in a case of Linda Lee Alcinor. Prosecutors allege that Alcinor's family paid $5,000 towards the fine to secure her release. However, only $50 was paid into the court. On the same day, Nottage is accused of receiving $350 for the release of a suspect from custody. Nottage is further accused of forging 5 payments for Jason Jaquez. When police arrested Nottage on the accusations on March 15, they allegedly found her with $825 that's suspected of being the proceeds of crime. Nottage denied the allegations at her arraignment before Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt and was granted $8,000 bail. The matter was adjourned to March 31st for a status hearing with a view for trial in April. Police confiscated nearly 30 packages of marijuana on Monday shortly after 1:50 p.m. Operation Ceasefire officers, along with officers from the Internal Security Division, conducted patrols through Exuma Street. After getting a tip, those officers went to a car wash on Bahama Avenue and searched the area with the assistance of the K9 unit. As a result, 27 packages of marijuana were found underneath a pile of leaves. Now, no arrests were made. Mostly sunny skies around the town today. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center live with a look at our current conditions. Good evening, Greg.
Yeah, thanks,
Greg,
Natalia.
no more rain.
No rain. Most of that is down to the south.
All right,
You see that in our
good
satellite
news.
picture. But beautiful outside right now. Temperatures comfortable 74 on the mostly clear skies. The winds are out of the east-northeast at 16 miles per hour, and your feels like temperature is at 74. That frontal boundary mentioned with all the rain is now parked across the Aucklands and Crooked Island area. Cloudiness down there, high pressure is building behind. That's going to provide us with some very nice dry weather and some breezy conditions tonight through tomorrow. That's your first quick check on weather. Stick with us. A look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, on the last lap before the Carifta Games, the sports minister talks the state of preparations. But first, new details about the Causeway Bridge on Grand Bahama and plans for improvement, and how mismatched socks are spreading awareness about Down syndrome. That story and more on the other side of this break.
WPI.com.
Following several complaints by residents about the Causeway Bridge in Grand Bahama, the CEO and senior legal counsel for the Grand Bahama Development Company and Lakaya Service Company is speaking out about the reason for the delays and share details on the construction process.
We certainly acknowledge the concerns and the frustration of the residents in the surrounding areas of the Causeway Bridge.
The 50-year-old Causeway Bridge in Grand Bahama took a hard hit as a result of Hurricane Dorian. In 2021, a contract was signed with ABC Construction for repairs to the bridge for a period of 7 months. But according to the CEO and senior legal counsel for the Grand Bahama Development Company and Lakaya Service Company, Sharice Brown, it was found that additional work needed to be done once the project begun.
The design work needed to be varied because of the conditions on the site, and that's something that we looked at, that took some time to do, and that also caused the delay.
She says they understand the frustration expressed by residents.
It's lengthy, it's also costly because of the fuel costs, and we certainly appreciate that. We had anticipated that we would be able to reopen one lane of Causeway Bridge at the end of the month, and I have spoken with the contractor, and based on the progress of the construction, he has agreed that we can open a little earlier on the 22nd of March.
As for a completion date, the CEO says they're looking at August 2023, and she's urging motorists to be cautious.
When we do reopen the one lane on Causeway Bridge, the tonnage over the Causeway Bridge is 5 tons. And so we're asking the motorists, the contractors, to please respect that.
Brown says going forward, the company will improve their communications with residents, and there will be subdivision meetings once per quarter beginning this month.
We would invite the residents to visit our Facebook pages, that's for Lusco and for Devco, and we will be posting bi-weekly updates on the progress and the status of construction on the bridge.
All right, well, still on the island of Grand Bahama, the Lakaya Service Company, a subsidiary of the Grand Bahama Development Company, have begun dredging work on the Fortune Bay Canal in Grand Bahama. CEO and senior legal counsel of the company, Sharice Brown, explaining why the project is necessary at this time.
The Fortune Bay dredging project was necessary because of the silting of the canal, again because of Hurricane Dorian, and we just this week issued a notice on March 15th to mariners advising that we have commenced the work on Fortune Bay Canal.
And as for when the project will be complete,
we anticipate that that project will also be a 7-month project, and again we are advising the mariners just to be cautious when they are traversing in that area.
When our news comes back from the break, getting everything on track for the Carifta Games.
Plus, coming up in Sports for You tonight, we'll tell you how the local basketball scene heating up as the playoffs move closer to the championship round. We'll tell you which teams are in and which teams are out. Coming up in sports.
And wearing wacky socks for a cause. We'll tell you all about it when our news continues.
Carifta Games.
This is our news. Welcome back. In 2 weeks, the Bahamas will be hosts to the 50th Carifta Games. When asked about the project's timeline as we move closer to the big day, Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture Mario Boleg assured the media that everything is on track for the historic sporting event. And if you want a taste of what's to come, Boleg suggests attending the trials this weekend, which he says are to be executed like a mock run of the 50th Carifta Games.
We have about 500 athletes going to be competing in the high school nationals and Carifta trials this weekend. The intent is to make sure that we run it exactly as a mock of the Carifta Games. And so you see we'll go Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, which would be the same dates of the Carifta Games. So everything that you will see in Carifta, you will see a mock of that in the high school nationals and Carifta trials this weekend.
But there's one thing the sports minister is concerned about, and that's whether Bahamians will purchase tickets in a timely fashion, as he says individuals from other countries are already purchasing major seat sections throughout the stadium.
We have no doubt that the stadium would be sold out. The sad thing for us is that Jamaica has already purchased more than 20% of those sales. And so if we, as Bahamians, don't get to the ticket booth and start purchasing, then we can see more green, yellow, and black in the stands than the aquamarine, gold and black. So we want the Bahamians to understand that they must come out and that the young people need that support in order to have that extra push that we need to make sure that they cross the finishing line in front.
All right, well, the New Providence Basketball Association semifinals set to start tonight at the AF Adderley Gym. Meanwhile, in the NBA, Buddy Hield and Kai Jones squared off in a late-season matchup. Here's Marcellus Hall with a check on sports.
All right, thanks, Natalia. Welcome to Our Sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. The New Providence Basketball Association, much like the NBA, moving into the end of its regular season. In fact, already at the end of its regular season, and now into the playoffs. As it stands, there are only a few teams left with a championship berth on the line. Let's tell you exactly which teams are all set up now to take one step closer. New Providence Basketball Association playoff action continuing tonight at the AF Valley Gym. Semifinals already upon us. Two teams now looking to push their way closer. It'll start with your Essential Store Giants. They take on the Rebels Division II team. That'll be game one of their best of three. The winner of this one will move on to the championship, where they'll face off against the winner of the Produce Express team against the Discount Distributors Rockets. We'll see how that shapes up. Meanwhile, on the Division I side of things, that's going to be interesting there as well, as the matchup there is Discount Distributors Liquors Rockets going up against the Carroll Contractors Shockers. And that too will be a game one of a best of three series. The winner, of course, advancing to the championship to face off the winner between the series between the Giants and Sand Dollar. So things are starting to heat up as the season winds down. Speaking of winding down, the regular season is winding down in the NBA. Indiana Pacers and Buddy Hield, they're in no danger of playing in the postseason. They had a horrible year, already 12th in the Eastern Conference, and it didn't get much better last night, facing off against the Charlotte Hornets, featuring fellow Bahamian Kai Jones, who has been playing limited minutes, did get to see some time last night. As it stands, the Hornets win 115-109. Good performance for Kai again, getting limited minutes as the season winds down, but certainly he'll take it wherever it comes in at this stage of his career. And finally, we do have a look at what's going on as far as local golf is concerned. They're getting set for an upcoming kids tournament. That's going to be pretty interesting. The Junior Golf Federation getting ready to host a major event. Gina Gonzalez talking about what's ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to be here today to announce the third annual Inter-School Golf Championship. Once again, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be a part of this great program that we will all continue to watch as it grows and changes the lives of so many of our kids.
And that's your check on sports here on this Tuesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Italia.
Still ahead on our news tonight, we'll tell you what wacky socks and Down syndrome have in common. The rain is gone, but what's up next on the radar? Greg is back with your extended forecast right after this quick break. Welcome back to our news. Will windy conditions hang around a little longer? Well, Greg is back in the Weather Center with your extended weather forecast. Greg, no more rain, I hope.
No, but that rainfall we got, I know the gardeners really wanted that, and we needed that because the conditions were very dry. But yeah, that rain is gone. Windy conditions, as you mentioned, will be with us for the remainder of the week as a high-pressure system builds in behind a front that's actually across the central southeast Bahamas. That front is falling apart, will continue to move out of the area. Big storm system across the north central United States will stay to the north as that high pressure system remains in charge. Future forecast showing a little bit of moisture out there in the open Atlantic associated with that frontal boundary, but by tomorrow evening we expect that moisture to basically just disappear, and beautiful conditions expected for us for the remainder of the week. Boating not very good out there, as well as beaching. Small craft caution in effect. Rip current risk high. Northeast to east winds at 15 to 20 knots. Your seas will be running 4 to 7 feet. They will be higher as those winds gust higher than 20 knots. High tide will be at 8:41 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. New extended forecast, no change for the next several days as high pressure remains dominant. We could see some winds relax on the weekend, but temperatures will stay in the low to mid 80s. That's a look at our weather. Back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Greg. Well, have you rocked your socks? Today's World Down Syndrome Day, and people all over have been wearing their mismatched socks in support of those living with the condition. Tonight, our Jamila Mizik tells us more about the awareness campaign.
Typically, humans have 46 chromosomes, 2 pairs of 23, 2 copies of 23 chromosomes. A person with Down syndrome has 3 pairs of the 21st chromosome. So they have a mismatch of the 21st chromosome, and that results in the condition of Down syndrome.
It is the most common genetic condition in the world, but it doesn't stop those who have it from living a normal life. President of the Grand Bahama Down Syndrome Society, Wendy Hanna, says, despite having challenges from birth, those living with Down syndrome are just like everyone else.
Most people with Down syndrome have developmental delays, so they're delayed in speech, they're delayed in their physical mobility, and they tend to have an intellectual disability component to their lives as well. So they often need more stimulation, more engagement, more involvement to make sure that they meet their milestones as they grow up. But what we like to encourage people to know is that people with Down syndrome, once they are able to achieve their milestones, are just like everybody else.
As for the significance of rocking your socks on World Down Syndrome Day, well, not only are the wacky, bright-colored accessories a conversation starter, but socks also look a lot like human chromosomes. Hannah says every year on March 21st, the hope is that the awareness campaign helps to eliminate the stigma attached to people with special needs.
They enjoy to do the things that everybody else likes to do. They're social, they, like to learn, they like to be involved with people, they like to participate, and we just want to encourage the community to support them in those initiatives. Include them, appreciate them, value them, treat them as you would anybody else. And that's really what we try to promote with World Down Syndrome and every day of the year, just acceptance and inclusion of all people with Down syndrome.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
All right, great initiative. Thanks, Jamila, and thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.